Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to start the session. Also, a warm welcome to all of the online viewers, participants to this session on advancing SDG 7 in Central America and the Dominican Republic, the SICA Regional Energy Compacts. I would like to invite for the opening remarks to the stage Ms. Bahare Seidi, Senior Sustainable Development Officer at UNDESA and part of the UN Energy Secretariat. Over to you, Bahare.
Thank you so much, Martin. Good morning, everyone. Those of you who are here with us in the room, and of course, good morning to everyone online. It's a pleasure to be here to join you at this important event. And I know that there's a lot of good discussions coming up, and we have a series of really interesting experts with us, so I don't want to take too much time. But just on behalf of UNDESA and UN Energy, maybe 3 points. One is that the data on progress is not positive. And whether you have been here in the SDG 7 forum or across in UN or within the climate week here in New York, you know that we are not on track on the SDGs or the Paris goals. Specifically, only 17% of the 169 targets are on track. Half of them, there is moderate progress, 1/3 actually regressing. And of course, on the climate, you know that we have already reached 1.2 degrees, and this is our last chance of retaining 1.5 with the next generation of NDCs. Now, what I want to zoom in is the energy story, and I want to mention that the energy story is a positive one. And I want to say there is hope within this dark, gloomy story that the data is telling us, and that is, it is now widely recognized that energy is at the heart of the development agenda. Energy is at the heart of climate agenda as well. If you look at the latest outcomes of intergovernmental processes, you will notice that there's an increasing attention on the importance of energies on these two critical agendas. You may have heard about the Pact for the Future. This is something that member states agreed to as part of the Summit of the Future at the UN, and energy is squarely mentioned as part of SDG 7, actually is squarely mentioned as part of poverty eradication and sustainable development actions that governments have committed to going forward. And of course, you're familiar with the outcomes of the COP28. Energy is at the heart of that. Phasing out fossil fuels and the transitioning away from fossil fuels is something that we could not even discuss in the intergovernmental process related to climate, and now it's in the outcome document. So this is something to look at as there is signals of progress. Same at the national level, the momentum towards transforming energy systems in a way that works with people, for people, and leaves no one behind, and that in ways that are climate compatible is not, it's unstoppable. It's moving forward. It has to move faster and at a much larger scale, but it is unstoppable and it has already started moving. So there is signs of hope, and I want you to keep that in mind. Second, there is a number of instruments that can help accelerate the achievement of SDG 7, and one of them is energy compacts. Now, for those of you who may not be familiar with what compacts are, a brief background: in 2021, the General Assembly of the UN requested the Secretary General to convene a summit at the heads of state level on the topic of energy. This was the first summit on energy in 40 years, so it was a quite important gathering. And one of the outcomes of that was the launch of what we call energy compacts. These are voluntary commitments by governments, but also other stakeholders, civil society, private sector, on specific actions that they want to take forward in accelerating SDG 7 targets. Now, today we're delighted to have representatives from new set of compacts that have been developed in the Central American region, supported by the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, which we are very thankful for. and you will hear more details about what these compacts entail. I also want to say that we are very happy to have these new compacts from that region. Yesterday, in one of the sessions, one of the participants raised a question. So we're talking about SDG 7, but majority of the conversation here has been about Africa. What about Central America? We have the same issues. Why aren't we talking about it? And I almost raised my hand to say, come to the event tomorrow. Well, you'll hear specifically about commitments made in the Central America region. So we're very thankful for ECLAC for the support provided, and we're happy to have you here. And the last point is partnership. From the UN energy perspective, and I think this is a perspective that is shared across many stakeholders, it is now clear that addressing today's critical challenges needs all hands on deck. It is not the job of only governments. Governments, civil society, private sector, youth, marginalized communities, we need everyone to come together and act on this. And I think this is where the compacts are going to be critical, as they can be an entry point for everyone to come together and act on a critical issue that needs to be addressed. From the DESA perspective, we also put a lot of emphasis on the importance of multi-stakeholder dialogues. This SDG 7 forum is one of them. We do convene these sort of events regularly. We are delighted to have you all here with us today, and we look forward to collaborating with you all in the future. If you are interested in upcoming sort of forums and multi-stakeholder engagements, please do come and talk to us. With that, I will end it here. Martin, back to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bahari. So we'll go straight then to Ms. Deborah Lay, Head of the Energy and Natural Resources Unit, Sub-Regional Headquarters, UN ECLAC. Over to you, Deborah.
Yes, good morning. Welcome to all of you. Thank you for being here. So on behalf of, on behalf of ECLAC's Executive Secretary, Jose Manuel Salazar Chirinax, I would like to give you all a cordial welcome, especially to His Excellency, the Vice Minister of Energy of Honduras, Tomás Rodríguez, Bahari Sayedi of UN DESA, Carlos Cordero of the Ministry of Environment and Energy of Costa Rica, and our colleagues Tatiana Orellana and Carmen Padilla of the Central American Integration System. We also want to give a cordial welcome to the representatives of the permanent representations of UN from the countries of the SICA regions, and a welcome also to our in-person and online audience. And I can't forget to thank also UN Energy and SEforALLorg, to Martin, Divya, and my team back in Mexico of the Energy and Natural Resources Unit. So as Bahari just opened up, we are working on with the SICA countries on how to achieve SDG 7 by 2030. Thank you. And if we can go to the next slide, what is ECLAC's involvement here? And I'm just going to start with a brief background on how these regional energy compacts came about. And it starts with the 2030 Sustainable Energy Strategy that ECLAC helped develop with SICA and the 8 member states. And that the 2030 strategy is an example of joint and concerted action by a group of countries to advance the fulfillment of SDG 7 within the framework of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, and also in line with the Paris Agreement. And this 2030 strategy builds on a number of actions that help bring together not only Central American integration, but also regional energy integration. So we start with the Tegucigalpa Protocol and regional integration from back in 1961, the creation of SICA and its institutionality, under which the Council of Energy Ministers was created. ECLAC also supported back in since 2007, the Sustainable Energy Strategy of to 2020, and based on its positive results and achievements at the behest of the countries and SICA, we developed the 2030 strategy, which we are currently implementing now. So this follows a long history of ECLAC in the region, supporting regional energy integration. And I will add that back in 2018, the presidents of the region did commit to become the first region in the world to achieve SDG 7.1 on 100% universal access to electricity and clean cooking fuel. So these regional energy compacts are just another step in helping the implementation to reach those goals. So going to the next slide, please. The goals of the 2030 strategy, repeating what I last said, is focusing on universalizing access to electricity services, not only by grid extensions, but also by isolated systems, microgrid distributed generation, universalizing access to modern fuels, either by reducing the amount of fuel wood or substituting to different fuels like we heard in the last session with LPG or electric stove, increasing the share of renewable energy sources. The current goals are 65% in SICA regions and 75% for Central America, supporting a greater deployment and participation of non-conventional renewable energy, mainly dealing with intermittency and storage issues, which have been a challenge in the region, doubling the improvement of energy efficiency efforts, and reducing electricity consumption. And this will be done mainly through regional technical standards. The region already has approved a number of standards, and the goal here is to increase the number of standards that are approved and implemented. So going to the next slide, please. This figure here just shows the different areas or major themes that the 2030 Sustainable Energy Strategy is tackling. So we have data management, education, diversification of the energy matrix, access, looking at different linkages with other SDGs, such as with food and water, looking at energy and climate change, also emphasized by Bahare, regional energy integration, transportation, smart grid. So there's a number of themes here divided into 41 action areas, broken down into 157 activities and 79 results. So we can say that it's a lot to tackle from here to 2030. But what happened with these energy compacts was a years-long strategy of the countries prioritizing some of these actions as to what is most important to deal with first. So if we go to the next slide, please. The decision of the countries was to prepare 5 regional energy compacts to present. And if we go to the next slide, please. We just want to show here a roadmap of what we've actually done, starting from the initial concept in June 2021, when ECLAC supported Honduras in their national commitments, when in Honduras's role as energy champion, when energy compacts were first launched, and the idea coming from there of let's do something regional to support the implementation of the Sustainable Energy Strategy. So from then until March 2024, we've been working with the countries on defining these priorities, keeping in mind that we can't tackle 157 activities at once. Then between March and April 2024, we did a mapping of different actors. And between April and May, we did a series of 10 socialization webinars across the 8 countries to get different inputs on the drafts that we had, which were then incorporated. And in June, we had the approval by the Council of Energy Ministers in Honduras. So right now, we're kind of closing this first part of the cycle by doing this formal presentation here to all of you, and then really looking forward towards the financing and implementation. And hopefully a year from now, we'll have some interesting results to share with all of you. So the next slide, please. As I mentioned, there's 5 energy compacts that will be detailed more in a later presentation. One of them is universal access to electricity. The next one is on reduction of fuel wood use. The next slide, please. Promotion of renewable energies for electricity generation, which here the countries have prioritized looking more into hydroelectric sources, the impacts of El Nino and longer dropped periods and what does mean, and also the age of the infrastructure, what needs rehabilitation, what could be rehabilitated, for example, supporting and strengthening of non-conventional renewable energies, looking specifically, mainly at intermittency and storage, and then improving energy efficiency through regional technical standards for the 8 countries. So yeah, at ECLAC, we're looking forward to continue working on these compacts, and as Bahari also mentioned, on forming more partnerships. As is noted, as IPCC has noted, there isn't one single action that will lead us to a sustainable path of global warming of 1.5 degrees. As Bahari mentioned, this isn't the action of a single entity, so we need partnerships, and ECLAC is excited to forming new partnerships to advance this topic. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Debbie. Next, I would like to invite Ms. Carmen Padilla, a legal assistant at the General Secretariat of SICA, to give remarks. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Before I begin, I would like to thank UN Energy for this opportunity, as well as ECLAC for their support. And for us, it's a great honor to be here today, not only on behalf of the General Secretariat of SICA, but also on behalf of the Council of Ministers of Energy, to which we support through technical and administrative expertise. So maybe because Debbie already covered so much of our strategy, maybe I will focus a little bit more on how SICA works and how SICA is planning to implement these energy compacts at the regional level. Of course, always considering that the national ministries are also a key actor in this process, right? So please, next. Thank you. So maybe just a little bit more of the legal background that Debbie already shared with you. First of all, we have the Tegucigalpa Protocol, which is the treaty which creates SICA and which allows us to be here today with you. And also we have the Guatemala Protocol for Economic Integration that was originally signed in 1961, but was reformed in 1994. And this one is the one that creates all the energy and electrical sector in the region in Central America. But I also want to take a little bit more of time to talk about some very important treaty in the region, which is the Sustainable Development Alliance, which was, next please, which was signed in 1994 by our presidents in Central America. This was way before the SDGs discussions, but already in Central America, we recognize that all economic integration process, in this case, would have to be done through a sustainable development goal, right? So in this treaty, we actually have a paragraph that I have brought to you here, in which we recognize that all economic infrastructure and electrical infrastructure must be done in accordance to environmental rules, also in accordance to the sustainable development of the region. So this, of course, was later complemented by the SDGs in general, and of course by the SDG 7 in particularly. Next, please. So that's our legal background, and as Debbie mentioned, in 2018 we finally created. I'm sorry that it's in Spanish because it's our standard PPT. That's how we created this regional governance that not only includes the Council of Ministers of Energy, but also includes 3 different levels of technical national officials, in which we include the directors, both of energy and of fuel, and we also have 7 different technical groups in which we include energy efficiency, energy planning. We also have biofuels. We also have cooperation technical committee, and of course, just fuels. So all these committees is how we are hoping to implement all the SDG 7 at the regional level, because these committees are integrated by the different officials in the national countries, which, in case you are not familiarized with SICA, includes 8 of the Central American governments, including Belize and Dominican Republic. So not just, Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, Panama, and Costa Rica, but also Belize and Dominican Republic. So these committees, they meet monthly. So these are the perfect instrument for us to give the feedback and the reports on the progress at the national level of these energy compacts, as well as the energy strategy that Debbie mentioned. Please, next. Maybe I will skip this just because of the time. So please, next. Next, please. Thank you. And next. So next, please. As Debbie mentioned, I would just like to maybe bring forward again the energy strategy, because as you can see, it is in total accordance with the SDG 7. It was actually created that way when we did the reform in 2018, if I am not mistaken. When we did the new version to 2030, we did it in a total accordance with the SDG 7. And as you can see, the main objective is to supply energy to our SICA member countries in quality, quantity, and source diversity, which became the target coming from, the background in Central America, the one that Debbie has already covered so much. So maybe please next. Maybe the next one too, because Debbie already covered this, and the next. Thank you. So as she mentioned, I will talk a little bit more about in detail what the compacts comprehend. And in this case, we have the first one, which is the Energy Compact for Universal Access to Electricity. Of course, this one will be focusing mainly on remote communities and communities within environmental restrictions. This compact is, of course, of great importance to Honduras and Guatemala as some of the countries who have yet to reach a bigger coverage than others. But this doesn't exclude the fact that the rest of the regional countries are deciding to support the ones who are a little bit behind, right? And also within the universal access to electricity, we are looking forward to work through sustainable governance and business models for power system and productive uses that are fair, equitable, and inclusive. And I think this SDG brings forward the possibility to also work with other sectors that we have not been working in the regional level, for example, the private sector, and of course, NGOs in the countries, or maybe vulnerable groups. So we're really looking forward to the implementation of the Universal Access to Electricity Compact. And please, next. And then we have, of course, reduction of fuel wood use that we have already a little bit discussed in the previous panel. And in this case, we are looking forward to promote greater penetration of improved cook stoves and LP gas and contribute to reduction of the region's consumption of fuel wood. So we know that this is a sensible topic on the region because of what the Vice Minister Rodriguez already mentioned. But we have also taken this energy compact since the social point of view. And we think that politically, it's a great advancement in the region to be discussing this at the energy compact level. So we are very pleased to having it here. So next, please. Then we have promotion of renewable energy for electricity generation. In this case, we are looking forward to have some studies to improve modernization in the hydroelectrical power and hydroelectric potential, and also to have a better estimation of the participation of the renewables in the grid in Central America, especially in the regional grid, which I don't know if you are familiarized with, but it's the one I think Debbie mentioned briefly, the CEPAL line, which is a regional line that it's not only administered by the countries, but it's administered at the regional level. So we are looking forward to have some estimations of the renewable participation there. And then we have the next one. Oh, sorry. Then we have the support and strengthening of non-conventional and renewable energy. In this one, we are looking forward to a greater capacity of the interconnected electric systems, and to reduce the intermittency that Debbie also mentioned a little bit earlier. And we're looking forward to identification of other areas like solar or biofuels through the use of geospatial systems in the region. Thank you. And then lastly, we have the last energy compact in Central America, which will be about improving energy efficiency through Central American technical regulations. This is a very strong capacity of SICA. If you're not familiarized with our governance, you will see that the norms, the technical norms and the political norms that our ministers approve through the council, they become a main part of the national legal systems. So they must be enforced. Governments are obliged to apply them. So we are looking forward to work on all technical regulations that can later be applied directly in the national sectors. So this is our last compact, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Carmen. And with this, we move to the next session, the roundtable on ideas on the implementation and financing of the regional energy compacts of the SICA countries, moderated by Deborah Lay. Over to you.
Thank you, Martin. So for the next part of the session, I'll welcome our panelists. So we have the Honorable Vice Minister of Energy of Honduras, Tomás Rodríguez, Tatiana Orellana, who's coordinator of the Energy Coordination Unit of SICA, Carlos Cordero of the Ministry of Energy of Costa Rica, of Environment and Energy, I'm sorry, and Carmen Padilla of SICA. So I'll just, like in the previous sessions, I'll stay here to do thank you. So this first part of the session will focus on the implementation of regional energy compacts. As has been stated, we've just gone through the approval process of it. So I'd like to ask Tatiana first, what should the guidelines be for the implementation of the regional energy compacts in all SICA member countries to ensure that the actions are operationalized and that they are inclusive and in line with a just energy transition?
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And I would like to answer this question, first of all, saying that we need still having engagement. Have you know, this has been a process that took our Council of Ministers to have these 5 compacts. So the first things to keep in mind is this engagement. Why? Because without engagement, we cannot advance, right? So this is the first of all. And the second thing I will say that this is not only one thing to be concerned to the governments that are represented in the council, right? But also it should be a concern of a multi-level approach. So I will say that from our side, we will be working with many sectors and key actors, stakeholders. Has already said that maybe NGOs and municipal or local governments. And I would say that private sector is also a key actor, because we cannot advance, for example, in this, for example, the compact related with advancing renewables, because we have a mix of private and public and private sector involved. So we need the private sector to be done in that way, this compact. And also we will say that we'll consider to have also open dialogues. This is another key we will have in mind, because it is important to have in this in all these compacts the what community says, right, about, for example, reducing the fuel the wood. Sorry. So it's important to have this also in mind in the example we have already have before in the last panel. We discussed that, right, that we have all these stakeholders here in these compacts. And I would like to say also that it's important to keep in mind that as we no leave anybody behind. So I will say only that, Deborah.
For the Vice Minister of Energy of Honduras, is that Honduras has been an energy champion back in 2021 when it submitted national energy compacts, which ECLAC also supported. So the question is, how do SICA's regional energy compacts complement your national commitments?
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, all my colleague panelists right now, and thank you, all the people who are present here and who are watching us online. This topic is seen by our new administration, which I'm part of very recently, as an integration process. The region of Central America has always had this ideal of being integrated as a whole. Many centuries ago, or a century and a half ago, or almost, well, 2 centuries ago, as a nation, as a whole country, as one single country. That was not possible. It's still not that way, evidently. But we are working into integrating us in different aspects. One of them is the energetic integration in different areas. As you already know, we have an integrated electrical conduction or transmission line, the CEPAL, that goes from Guatemala up to Panama, exactly. So seeing or giving you that background, when my country, Honduras, proposed its own national energy compacts, it was an effort that came from within a region which shares the same needs and which needs to work in the same aspects to reach an energy development and energy justice as we all Central American countries do. So how did our energy compacts integrate into the region compacts is the way of seeing it. Instead of making the individual proposal, then when we already had done it in the previous administration, we in the new one said, well, of course, we did it by ourselves. Now let's call the region to action. Let's invite them. Let's work with them. Let's gather with them so that they incorporate and we do it as a region, as a sub-region of Latin America, which is Central America. So they incorporated very well, believe me, because we share the same needs with, of course, different aspects and different peculiarities amongst them. For example, the access to electricity is very different. The percentage of access in each country is very different. I have my colleague here from Costa Rica, which has an access percentage which is extremely high. Congratulations for that. Also, Nicaragua has the same case, etc. Talking about access, talking about renewability in our energy generation matrix, we also have many differences. Some of them are almost 100% renewable. Some of us are behind in that aspect. So what we had to do is get together, talk about those topics, come to a consensus, which you have been part of that process, and decide that we better make it as a whole, because as a region, economically and territorially and culturally and numerically, we are stronger. So it's better for us if we can incorporate and integrate successfully for us to have an upper hand to get financing, to get materials, to get many things that we need for some of the energy compacts that we proposed as a group. So yes, the integration was a process that we saw that should be natural, and it came to be without as many obstacles that I thought it would have. It was much easier than I thought.
And is what institutional or financial mechanisms should be established to accelerate implementation of the Regional Energy Compact?
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you for the invitation for Costa Rica. It's an honor to be here, sharing some ideas with integral vision. I think it's crucial for the region continuous development of regional policies and regulation harmonizations, because that difference between countries in the same region facilitate a unified regulatory framework that simplifies the approval process for energy projects in member countries are crucial. For example, developing a standard regulation for LP gas or another issues specific in our territories could accelerate the implementation at the regional level. The Central American technical regulations is crucial to establish a specific timeline for the implementation for this Central American technical regulation with technical and financial support to countries that need it. This would include training for officials and companies on how to comply with energy efficiency standards. And the second point for us important is the public-private partnerships to search the private investment in our region is crucial for renewable energy projects. Promote this public-private partnership to develop geothermal, wind, and solar energy projects. For example, in development in a wind farm in a member country could be financed and operated by a consortium that includes local and international companies, for example. And training and technology technology transfer programs to local capacity building are very important. We have identified, for example, El Salvador is very strong in geothermal energy. Honduras is very strong in metric and data. And Costa Rica is very strong in renewable and energy and universal electrification. So this transfer and exchange between countries in our region can be a big achievement to complete our compacts energy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So a question for SICA is, what do you think is needed to ensure the sustainability of the actions that will be implemented, and what measures do you recommend for promoting accountability?
Thank you, Debbie, for the question. I think, firstly, we are talking about the capacity of SICA to enforce. I think it's something that can help to ensure the sustainability of the actions within the energy compacts. Of course, sustainability is very linked to financial capacity, and we are quite aware of that. But I think that when the Council of Ministers of Energy approved these energy compacts, they just didn't do it just for the UN or just for UN Energy in this case, but they also did it as a regional compromise. So when the ministers approved them, they actually, in the resolution, if you can read it, they are obliging themselves to the enforcement of these energy compacts within the national level. So that's something that I think will provide sustainability for these energy compacts. Then I think we have a little bit about the engagement from the national officials. Of course, we know Honduras was a leader within this process, and we are very pleased about it. Without them, we wouldn't have these regional energy compacts. But ensuring the engagement from all technical officials within the SICA countries, it's essential for the implementation. We cannot do it alone. I mean, SICA governing bodies at the regional level cannot do it alone without the compromise, both politically and technically within the national countries. And lastly, I think to ensure sustainability, I think we have to promote the involvement of other sectors, as I mentioned earlier. And I think as Carlos and Tatiana already mentioned, I think we need to promote the participation of the private sectors, of NGOs, and also of other vulnerable groups, such as the indigenous communities within our countries, or I don't know, LGBTQ groups, also Afro-descendants within the SICA countries. I think we need to promote their involvement in these energies, not only because of the political benefits of that, but also to actually make sure that the energy compacts go to the most vulnerable population in Central America. Thank you.
Thank you for highlighting this. I think it's been interesting to hear not just the actors, but the different synergies that you've already identified within the region. Going back to Honduras in 2021, when you had all the development process and the socialization, you involved many stakeholders. So in line with that, what additional stakeholders do you think need to be involved also for the implementation of the regional energy compacts, and in what specific roles do you view them?
Okay, very well. This is a process. Each energy compact requires a different perspective and a different process. So trying to be not so extensive in my answer, I'll try to focus more or less in general to what do we need to involve, whom we need to involve in these in this process of developing or reaching, advancing, making progress in each of the energy compacts. Well, for example, in the first energy compact, which is universal access to energy. Here, in the example of Honduras, the state is the most proportional, or the actor or the stakeholder that has to participate in the greatest proportion, because the distribution network and the transmission network is owned by the state. That might be different in other countries. So we have to, before trying to make a regional strategy for that, analyze what each country has within their territory. But moving forward within the international integration, the regional integration in Central America, as I mentioned in the previous panel, we already have a transmission line that integrates the whole SICA region. Okay, so with respect to that, of course, we need also to incorporate certain distribution programs, or the way, the modality in which we provide access can incorporate international cooperation. We do that with microgrids, for example, or mini hydroelectric or micro hydroelectric generation plants, etc. Different, and also the private sector. The private sector has been convoked in Honduras to participate in our processes to adjudicate projects. They are open. They are the national companies, and the international companies that want to participate can also do so. We also have the reduction of fuel wood. Well, as I mentioned before in a previous panel, we have to involve many sectors, but mostly know how to engage with the sector that still uses wood as fuel. and how to make them understand the reasons behind our objective of trying to reduce wood as a fuel, trying to make them understand from the point of view of science, medicine, health, agriculture, climate change, and of course, without forgetting their traditions and their ancestral way of doing things. From the, renewable energies. That is a must worldwide. The promotion of renewable energies, that's not only particular for Central America. In Honduras, the government is investing thousands of millions of dollars, seeking the financing with World Bank and other big banks. I don't want to leave anyone outside of whom we're talking to, the European Union, etc. Many places we're looking for that, because we had forgotten in Honduras, and I know that that's not true in other countries of Central America, about how basic and how beneficial it is to produce energy through hydroelectric power plants. Of course, we need to encourage solar, wind, geothermal for those of us who have a chance to do so, which have manifestations of geothermal energy in our countries. But we are making use of a lot of resources. Central America is, I don't want to say rich in, it's billionaire with rain. It's one of the regions where most rain falls during the year. So why not make use of that? Some of our countries are very mountainous, have a lot of mountains. Guatemala has a lot of mountains. Honduras is one of the most countries with most mountains in Central America. We have a very big chance. Only 7% or 8% of our hydroelectric potential is being used. Of course, we don't need to use it all because we need to use water for other things. But yes, we are way behind into what a potential we should use. And of course, encouraging alternate or more innovative ways of generating or guaranteeing energy supply. Geothermal is the one that we are trying to encourage most, because we have a lot of solar already and we have some wind in Honduras, but geothermal gives us base energy. It doesn't depend of the hour of the day or the climate manifestations of wind. So we are betting into that a lot and guaranteeing the production of renewable sources with storage. That's something that has not been planned. We are behind in that in the region, not only in Central America, but in the whole Latin American, Caribbean region. We didn't plan very well when we started encouraging renewable energies. And of course, my colleague here has talked about the CATRs, how to standardize certain aspects of the technical regulations of Central America. We are working on that very, very constantly, and we have had I don't remember how many approved in the last years. So yes, we are progressing in all those aspects, both from my perspective as in the regional perspective.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I think this also helps to highlight the importance of these energy compacts, as it helps fill out the gaps that you've already been identifying, as well as a vision for what you think the priorities are, and which of course are already reflected. So that leads me to a question for Carlos. Costa Rica will have the pro tempore presidency of SICA starting January 2025. So what measures do you envision to start the implementation of the regional energy compacts?
A great responsibility. But for Costa Rica, it will be an honor, and we take this responsibility with so much seriously. First of all, for us, it's important continues the excellent job that Honduras we have been made in. We are progressing in so many issues, technical issues, and for Costa Rica, it's important to include the environmental vision in the energy policies. As you introduced me at the beginning of this panel, you say Carlos Cordero from Ministry of Energy in Costa Rica. I know, I understand completely, because in the majority of the countries, the Ministry of Environment and the Ministry of Energy are totally separate. In Costa Rica is the Ministry of Environment and Energy. This green pin is not casual, it's totally intentional. But this vision is very important, because when you have the same minister in environmental issues and the same minister in energy issues, we can have a high-level decision, more environmental, with more environmental responsibility, because normally the energy minister are very strong in front of the environmental ministers. So for us, it's very important to integrate, because the energy policy in our region needed to reviewing with more strong detail the climate change policies, the circular economy policies, the biodiversity policies, the seas policies, and integrate and interconnected with the energy policy, are not separated. I know this, we are progressing to integrate this kind of universe of policies, but the energy policy, like the solar system, like if the energy policy is like a sun, and the rest of the environmental policy are the planets around the sun, it's important to have harmonized and integrate in a vision with these different kind of policies. The region has very big potential in biomass and bioenergy. Costa Rica, like OECD member country, has, in compare with other member countries with that OECD, we are over the average or the organic waste. But so this is a big environmental problem, in fact, in our country, in rural areas. But for us, it's at the same time a big opportunity to take this organic waste and transform biomass and bioenergy, and at the same time to take opportunities to green or sustainable development in rural areas, like green business, green alliance, or another. And another point important for us is development of a regional energy market. We are progressing in this point, but we need to interconnect the region, even like with Mexico, for example, for bring security energy to all the region, because we are in front of the several negative effects of climate change that put in risk our energy from the water, from the hydroelectrical water. So this is for us, this is our vision for the 2025 under Costa Rica vision. So I hope that we have better results and continue the excellent job that Honduras doing. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Carlos. It sounds very exciting. Despite hearing like all the plans and the activities and the actors, now I think we need to turn to a very important topic that has been highlighted, which is financing. And what are the resources that are needed and that are available, and what is missing? So I'd like to ask Vice Minister Tomás, what are the financing needs for the implementation of these regional compacts?
It's a very big need, great need. Humongous need, yes, that we have financially. Unfortunately, our countries have economies that do not allow to invest in certain things, because traditionally we have in our way of perceiving or experiencing our reality, we try to focus on other aspects, the health issue in our countries. Security issues are very, very serious, and water supply, as in other regions of the world like Africa and others, are basic. Education, we have a very big gap in education. So, coming back to our sector, those areas require the national funds to be oriented to them, and unfortunately, they haven't thought. Of course, they don't leave us with any money, but less money has been traditionally invested in other aspects of this sector. I know that in the recent decades in our region, the heads of state and other officials of government have been developing a greater awareness into that the energy sector is the motor for the development of all the other sectors. If you have a strong energy sector, you can strengthen anything in your economy, anything in the development. You can provide health in any region of the country. You can have vaccines anywhere. You can have medical support. You can have night schools, which you couldn't if you didn't have a strong energy sector. So this is changing, but we're still not there. So fortunately, I have a very good team. I'm speaking here on behalf of the Secretary of Energy, but we have an excellent team in all the directions and all the departments, from the head, Minister Tejada, and all the directors and everything, and especially the cooperation director. And all the team is super efficient. They're very dedicated, and they do a great job trying to get a financing for us, or meetings at least, with to try to get financing, and we are doing so. Just to mention an example, I don't want to leave anybody behind, but we are on the final steps of getting $87 million from the World Bank, and also with cooperation of the European Union. That is going to be dedicated only for electrification, for access, whether it is extending the transmission and distribution network, or, as I was mentioning, investing in micro projects, microgrids, isolated projects, etc. All the other possible variations that we have. So yes, there's great need. For example, talking about that access, universal access. And as I mentioned before, we also have pilot projects in other of the energy compacts. One thing we are looking for right now is financing to make a study or a survey, a general national survey, which I would encourage that we do it regionally too in whole Central America, about the use of wood as fuel. We don't have it yet in Honduras. That's something we work with data from 30, 40 years ago, and that's not a good way of doing so. We've tried to make some projections mathematically, but I don't think it's really stuck to what is real. So what am I trying to conclude here? That there's infinite needs for financing. What we need to incorporate is a good team that makes and works in obtaining spaces like this or similar ones for us to come in touch with the financial institutions, whichever kind they are, cooperation agencies, NGOs, whatever it is, so that they can hear what are the needs and what are the modalities in which we could engage in financial transactions, and see if they're interested, and in that form, concrete some of the projects through the obtention of financial products.
Thank you. Thank you very much. For Carlos, what would be the sources for domestic resource mobilization that will likely support the implementation of these regional energy compacts?
This topic is always an issue, because domestic resource require very strong strategic planning. And for us, the first step is a serious and deep reviewing about the public investment. The first step, like in a pyramidal scheme, in the height of the pyramidal, politics, in the middle, strategies and plans, and in the base of the pyramidal, programs and projects. And these programs and projects needs to be completely aligned to the plans, strategy, or policies to have complete sure the public investment is in a correctly and effective investment. I think our regional strategy, like is a policy, regional policy for SICA region, is needed to put in the high of the pyramid, and all member countries reviewing our public investments in alignment sense with the specific projects and programs. And for me, this is the first step, but with all mentioned before, private sector investment, renewable energy projects are very crucial for the region, but with our specific characteristics in our region, we need to so much innovation. For me, the circular economy is a great opportunity in rural areas in the Costa Rica and the Central American to bring sustainable models to have green business and green energy, like bioenergy. And we need to create more cooperatives and community organization with local energy projects. Development banks and local financial institution credits for renewable energy and energy efficiency are crucial in each of our country to have access with some advantage to institutions. We bring credits for renewable energy and differentiated tariff. But this can be delicate in our region because we still have problems of social inequality to resolve, and taxes and tariff variation cannot negatively affect the purchasing power of people with greater social and economical vulnerability in our context. And of course, innovation and bring to all the donors, private NGOs, put together and try to bring the innovation to have the co-funding and financial opportunities to our region needed.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you actually to you both, because you've highlighted, what happens on internationally with big donors, what happens at the country level, and again, highlighting the need for this coordination and how we really need to improve leveraging of different sources. So that leads me to another question for SICA of what would be the role of external cooperation and what international donors would be likely to support these regional compacts beyond the ones already mentioned by Vice Minister Tomas and Carlos.
Thank you, Debbie. Yes, I think as a regional officer, my message to the external cooperation will be that they become this, not tool, but maybe this actor to promote regional projects as well, like regional cooperation. We know that individually, both, of course, Honduras and Costa Rica have mentioned their planning in terms of the external cooperation, and we know that the rest of the countries have promoted their needs and they are in talks with the external cooperation. But I think we still have a little bit of a challenge to how to replicate these projects or these programs in the other countries of the region. We know that there are different characteristics in the countries, but the needs are basically exactly the same within the Central American region. So I think that's one important role that cooperation can have in Central America. We've had actors that have promoted this regional vision of cooperation, like ICLAC, OLAVE. The German cooperation is one of the most important actors at the regional level. So I think in order to implement these energy compacts with the aid of external cooperation, I think we have to have this vision of not only individual countries, but also at the regional level. And I think another thing that maybe external cooperation can promote is allowing the energy sector to have access to other kinds of funds. We know that sometimes it's a little bit hard for the energy sector to participate in the Green Fund, for example, or other funds related to maybe more the environmental part, but energy takes an important part of that environmental planning. So I think maybe in the future, the external cooperation can have a more active role in allowing the energy sector to access these funds and these grants. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think this is also important to highlight, as you've all mentioned, that energy sector is not alone and that we need to work with other sectors, especially like with fuels when you involve health, forestry, environment, maybe education and finance, but also when you look at environment issues with hydros or other technologies, food, water, competition, etc. So I think this is another area where we can definitely get some leverage. I know that there's members of the different SICA countries online with us and here in person, also from the permanent representations to the UN. So if you'd like to have the floor, have any remark, the floor is open now. Okay, so then that gives us time for a couple extra questions following on the topic of cross-sectoral linkages. And I'll leave this question open to all the panelists on, again, even though we're talking about regional energy compacts, how do you envision working with different sectors, highlighting this importance, as Bahari mentioned in the opening, of energy is not alone, but energy is also needed for the achievement of other SDGs, and how this cooperation can also help advance further action.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Well, as Bahari mentioned, and I think I did so mention before, looking for an integrated way of working is very important. I'm going to go from particular to general. In Honduras, realizing, because very luckily, Minister Tejada and myself come from a technical branch of engineering, which deals a lot with energy. We understand the crucial aspects of energy in the working and functioning of the universe. So we understand how it works and how it is involved in every human activity also. So we have given the importance, of being recognized by other institutions of government. We immediately made an interinstitutional table, technical table, for other institutions to understand how the energy provision, the energy security, and the energy sustainability got involved or is involved, without doubt, in the activities that they develop as other ministries or other institutions of government. Of course, it is not as easy to integrate the work and the interest of other officials or other technicians, etc. with the importance that we give to it. But if we do not make the effort, we are not going to get closer to the goals we want to achieve. But that has been something really important that we need to do, to integrate that understanding, to share the knowledge that we have about the sector to other people. So not as technically, but to seek the social, financial, economic importance that it might have in the activities that they develop as government officials and as government institutions. We try to get close to the industrial sector, commercial sector, to the informal economical sector, the micro and small businesses, as we say commonly. So that integrated view is very important to understand and to strengthen both the activities of the sector and all the other activities that are not particular of the sector. That inside the country, and also try to incentivate that importance, that concept of importance within the region. I represent Honduras in the regional electrical market. I try to be very insistent, even if they don't like it, that we need to look at ourselves as a region that does not only obey the market rules, but also the social rules, the social needs that our countries, our populations have, in order to guarantee a provision of energy that is not only focused on price, but on needs. So that integrated way of seeing things. And of course, here I was talking to Ed, who was in the previous panel, and how he talked about some actions they made in Africa, because these needs and these energy compacts might not be applicable only to our region. It's a worldwide need in different parts of the world. So we can perfectly go from particular and spread this idea. Of course, that needs constant work. It needs constant dedication. It needs real, genuine will to do so that you can transmit that to your peers, but also to the population and to people who have a different perspective of it in other parts of the world. But having an integrated vision, integrational vision, is for me crucial so that we can advance as humanity in general.
Yes, well, thank you for highlighting this part of, the social aspect. I know in the previous panel, you talked about cosmovision and the relationship of people with nature. So when government talks also about indigenous peoples, I think that's, of course, a crucial element. And I think this helps to show the different facets of what a just energy transition is. That, well, for some can be focused more on, for example, electromobility and net zero. There are other priorities in the region that are more specific and that have been amply highlighted here. So,
yes,
Scott.
I would like to agree at some point important in this integrated vision of the sustainable energy model. We are mentioning it before, biodiversity, circular economy, like an opportunity to green business, climate change, but social and education issues. But one example interesting in Costa Rica in this moment is that some international companies are choosing Costa Rica for their operations because the renewable clean energy is an opportunity, is like a plus in the conditions for international business, because they can take advantage in the market conditions because their products are produced with clean energy. So it's so important to have this in mind, like an opportunity to economical and social development in our countries. The renewable energy model is not only for for one aspect of the public policy is very integral. The consequence, positive or negatives, are very integral. And this economical and social development is very important for our region. And I dream with a region that can attract this kind of investment, sustainable investment, and try to achieve the economic development with sustainable investment, even they are international investment.
Thank you, Carlos. For SICA, I guess my question now is that you have different councils under SICA for environment, for agriculture, health, finance, etc. So what mechanisms do you think that the Energy Coordination Unit can take, or what approaches you can take to work with these different councils in the advancement of these regional energy compacts?
Yes, thank you for the question, Debbie. Actually, we have an agenda, for example, for the Environment and Development Minister Council. And actually, we are working, for example, with Carlos in this space, and we have some topics we have identified to work together. So if we have already identified these topics, we can do that with this energy compact as well. I think this is, is a previous experience we have, and it's kind of difficult. I can say that it's not easy to join two sectors to work in a same agenda because it's complex. But we work in that kind of mechanism to work in a specific agenda to work. For example, we were working in the this goal is the goal, the regional goal for not only mitigation but also adaptation initiatives. So we can do this for the energy compacts as well with other sectors like health, also social, and what else we have? Agriculture, exactly. We can also do that. For example, from the unit, I have some talks with these other secretaries because they have secretaries. So we are willing, right, to work and to put in the table. We have these energy compacts. What can and say to them, what can we do together? So I think this is possible. We promote that from the General Secretariat of SICA. So I think even though it's complex, we can do it. And this is our commitment to do it in the regional level, because as our colleagues here have been talking, they think from the national point of view, we can do it in the regional.
Yes, thank you. Just so the public knows, together with the development of these energy compacts, also based on the Sustainable Energy Strategy, ECLAC has been working with SICA and the countries on the development of a regional goal for mitigation, adaptation, and loss and damage of energy sector. So these are the two main mechanisms that we're looking at for the implementation of the actions within the Sustainable Energy Strategy. In reality, you can consider it a regional national development commitment under the Paris Agreement. And I think something that the countries had highlighted since 2019 is that the region is highly vulnerable to climate impacts. So therefore, we don't need to only look at how to reduce emissions, but also how to be more resilient for the populations, for the infrastructure, for our natural resources. So this work is still in progress, hopefully approved soon. But I think this is another mechanism that complements, and I think it also goes hand in hand with another initiative of DESA, which is the Climate and SDG Synergies. I know you just had the Synergy Conference in Brazil, but this is another initiative of the region. So also, I guess, trying to highlight Central America as a region. I think it was Bahari who said earlier that people ask why Africa and what happened, why is more highlight on Africa and less on other regions. So this is part of the work that ECLAC is trying to do to help countries gain more visibility, not just for visibility's sake, but because there is a real need. There is vulnerability, but there's also a huge opportunity. So before closing, I'd like to open the floor again if there's any comments or remarks from the floor. Is there any other microphone? Oh, no, for the people online. Yeah, okay.
Hi. So I would like to ask a very practical question.
Sir, would you mind introducing yourself?
Oh, thank you. I'm Jacqueline. I'm from Guatemala. I'm from Asazua. And just in very practical terms, probably for the minister and for the vice minister, when we're talking about that just transition and you're doing all of your planning and you did all of your planning, and in Costa Rica's case, you actually executed it, and taking in consideration just transition and taking into consideration all the challenges that we know and you mentioned about climate change and storage and variability and everything that we know about renewable energies, did you identify overcosts that would come to the system in terms of how it would reflect in tariffs and final users, and what strategies did you implement or are you implementing in terms of how to mitigate that and not have that effect in terms of the most vulnerable people that are, on the other side of the value chain with tariffs? Thank you.
Thank you. And do we have any other question before we turn it back to the panelists? Okay, thank you.
In the transition of the green energy, okay, where in our country, in Costa Rica, the electrical model is 100% clean energy, but we have so many challenges in the mobility because we are very dependent of the petroleum and fossil fuels for buses or individual cars. However, the electricity of the transport is taking advantage of our condition of our country and is in advanced in compared with the region with the rest of the region. The specific cost of this transition is very difficult to have. In fact, we have our national decarbonization plan, but in this moment we are trying to have a investment plan for this decarbonization plan because the technology is changing and the condition that we created this decarbonization plan in 2018, yes, are changed completely. The world in this moment is have better condition to this transition, and we are in this moment creating this specific investment plan. But we have identified some negative consequence about this decarbonization plan if we not taking action, effective action before this complete decarbonization economy, like the lithium battery, because we have in the region we have less opportunities to recycle. However, in Costa Rica, we have the first company with technology development in Costa Rica that is dedicated to recycle to lithium battery. But for me, the cost is important, but the negative effects of environment is important to have in account because the electricity of the all cars and all buses around the world is a big issue for the environment, is a big issue for the economy, and we need to transform these negative consequences in opportunities to green business, like this company that recycle lithium battery. And regarding to the cost of decarbonization in Costa Rica, we expect to have some numbers in 2025. So we are publishing in our pages.
Great. Congratulations, Costa Ricans. It's a great, those are great news and good things to know about your advances and your progress with respect to that. The just transition, or transition with justice, in Honduras is something that we are starting to do formally. I have been personally involved since 2022 in the final elaboration of the national energy policy. We still don't have one approved in our country. There have been proposals since probably a decade ago. Some teams started to do it, then they left it behind, and they restarted it, and they left it behind without finishing it. We analyzed the draft that we found in the files of the Secretary of Energy when we took office, and we analyzed it. We took what was useful for our government vision, our state vision, our regional vision, and finished one. It's right now at the desk of the president, which was yesterday here at the UN, giving her speech. And I'm waiting for news from the presidency to see what's happening. That would be a milestone for us. From that, and working around what we wrote down, I come back to the point where you can write anything down, but the important thing is to do the things that you wrote down. So on behalf of what we wrote down there, we have started to make the action plan and already started to make involve all the actors, all the stakeholders that are involved or should be involved, as we spoke before, in the just energetic transition, a just energetic transition. That involves many aspects, not only the financial ones, not only how the tariff will impact on the final user. How do you manage territorial aspects, cultural aspects, aspects of gender, aspects that deal specifically with women? All those are stated in the 5 axes that the energy policy has in its pages. We have established a mechanism of communication with communities and strategic handling with communities, with differentiating them with respect to the region of the country that we have. Honduras is a small country, but it's very diverse in its different ancestral cultures. I was talking to Carlos and to Carmen, I think, or somebody here in the audience before, that it's very different to handle the populations from the north, from the south, the Mosquito people from the east near Nicaragua, or the people from the west that we share a lot with Guatemala, the Maya Chortis. So all that has to be contemplated in the energy policy. We are establishing the focal points, the people that are helping us handling that. How we negotiate the financial instruments that we're going to make for that just transition. How strong are we going to keep our posture with respect to how can we negotiate the conditions? So that's important too. And something that we have done, which had never been done in Honduras, is to gather the private sector that generates energy for electricity production and renegotiate all the contracts of energy purchase that we have with them. And of course, that has not been taken very happily from the private sector. As I told you before, that's not what I'm here for them to be happy. I'm for them to have just conditions, fair business conditions, have enough margin of profit, but not be obsessive or excessive to my population with respect to that. So we have renegotiated contracts with the majority of the companies. Some of them are still reluctant, but we're waiting for them to be able to sit down. That has impacted the tariff, the final fare, not as much as we wanted to, but it has. So there's a lot of factors that we need to apply to make a just transition. And monetarily, of course, the financial instruments we use, renegotiate contracts, and the circular economy incentives that we need to look around the generation and the access of electricity. Multifactorial, so not enough time for now, but those generalities I can explain right now.
Well, thank you very much. So we're approaching the closing of this session, and I'd just like to give you the opportunity to do a 1-minute closing remark because we've already taken the 5 minutes that we were behind. So 1 minute each, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, the regional energy compacts, I would say, are a milestone for our energy regional integration, as we have before with this interconnection that we have in Central America. This is also a milestone for us, and I will say it is indeed in the line with our strategy that is in line with the SDG 7. So I will say that.
Very good. Well, our focus here is understanding that the energy compacts are undoubtedly something that we have to focus on. How we focus on it is what will make a difference if we get to achieve advance and progress in those energy compacts. Both the interest of all the stakeholders, government, private sector, financial institutions, social institutions, NGOs, everyone, that the quality and the quantity, the percentage of your interest, genuine interest, will make us move forward, working together, creating spaces in which we harmonize our views, and we can discuss these topics. And after these events, go to work in our offices, not leave this behind just in an event, okay? So thank you for your time, and we'll keep on working together, I hope.
For me, the first of all is innovation, innovation, innovation. Second step, bring this innovation to rural areas. In our context, we need to achieve equality between the cities and the rural areas. Third, respect and consider the specific condition and context, cultural context. And last, do the more effectiveness strategic planning to be completely sure that the domestic investment, public investment, international cooperation, donors, and other financial resources are completely effective investments. Thank you.
Thank you. Lastly, I think on behalf of the General Secretariat, I would like to thank our Central American governments, the 8 of them, for having this regional perspective and for putting forward a regional commitment into the energy compacts. I know it was a hard discussion for them to achieve them, and it will be even harder if the successful implementation of the energy compacts, but be assured that the General Secretariat will be with you alongside the way, and hopefully we will also be joined by other international cooperation actors and as well ECLAC. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. And well, for ECLAC, it has been a pleasure to host this session. Thank you again for all of you, and we look forward to continuing this work with SICA in the regions, and hopefully the new partners will be making this session. So thank you very much, and can I please have all the panelists stand in the front for a group photo? Thank you, everybody online also.